Good morning, folks. Good morning and welcome to this beautiful place with all you beautiful people on this beautiful day. It is so nice to be around today. It's so nice to be around all of you today, and I'm so happy to see all of you here. My name is the Reverend Ed Proulx, and I am the minister here in this beloved community of faith and hope and love. And that was what we heard about yesterday at the wedding ceremony that was held right over here with Hillary, who's actually the president of the congregation, and Robert, who were married yesterday. For many of you who were here, it was a wonderful afternoon and a wonderful ceremony. And they are not with us today because they're on their way to Asheville, North Carolina, to do what people do after they get married. Whatever that may be. Hello, Hillary, if you're watching, and Robert. I have a couple quick announcements for you this morning. First of all, I am joined by Ruth Walensky, who is our worship associate this morning, who is totally awesome and does so much for this congregation. So we're so happy to have you with us. And she tells me that the thing she does is she never misses a flute group meeting. So we have a flute group, and we had a drum group. Is the drum group continuing? It's on hiatus because of the leader is on hiatus, yes. But the flute group is going strong, and is the flute group today? No?
Second and fourth Sunday.
I have no idea. So second and fourth Sunday, and today is neither the second nor the fourth Sunday. And if you want to come and learn how to play the flute but don't have a flute, don't worry, they have flutes you can borrow. Loaner flutes, only here at Emerson. Between lunch, we're going to offer this afternoon, this after service, we're going to offer a talk back because we are talking about the Bible, and that can light some buttons for people, so we are going to have a talk back after. Talkbacks are not required for you to stay. If you want to stay, you can. If you do not want to stay, we have coffee in the gathering place for you, and then after the gathering place, we will gather for what's called lunch bunch. There's a sign in the foyer in the gathering place telling you where to go if you'd like to continue the conversation. And our LPMT team is, like every week, here. We welcome them. Our lay pastoral ministry team is here if you need someone to talk to, and you can tell them because they have yellow badges, like that one there. So if you, and there's another one back there, if you would like to speak to someone after the service, go right ahead. Just ask someone with a yellow name tag. And lastly, we welcome our visitors this morning. If you've been here, what I recommend with the UU Church is that you come 7 times because the service can change so much from week to week. Come, see if you like it. If this place seems to fit into your spiritual journey, we would invite you to fill in a yellow card, which you will find in the pew backs or fronts, depending on your perspective, in front of you. It's a yellow card. You can fill it in. The people who take care of these things ask that you fill in both sides of the yellow card, and you can put it in the offering basket during the offertory. And that's it. That's all we have for today. And I would like to, have you met Hyun and Fang yet? Have we met you?
Yes.
You were here last week when I wasn't. Well, we welcome Han Hui, thank you, to bring us into the formal part of our service.
In Unitarian Universalist Sunday churches like this one across the nation and across the world, we light a chalice at the start of worship and other gatherings. I would like to invite Marilyn Rambo to have the honor of lighting our chalice this morning. As Marilyn lights our chalice flame here in the sanctuary, I invite those of you joining us from home or away on YouTube to light a candle or chalice of your own. In the words of Reverend Shari Woodbury, the light of the chalice represents the spark of the Spirit, cupped in earth's embrace. It represents the light of love alive in all creation, and when we kindle this flame, here in the presence of this beloved community, we rekindle our connection to the sacred web of life. When we light our chalice, we hear words of timeless wisdom to help center us for our time together. For the month of September, our chalice lighting words come from Brother James R. Dennis. Brother James is an award-winning contemporary poet, a novelist, and a Dominican friar living in San Antonio and teaching on spiritual matters. He was our guest speaker during Poetry Month here at Emerson. Please join me in reading these words together as they appear on your screen. Let us put down our burdens for a while. Let us gather flowers and prepare a meal. Joining together, let us remember our ancestors today. This is the time when we step out of time. We welcome you here today. We welcome you who come here for the first, the 5th, or the 500th time. We welcome you who come with heavy hearts or with joyous spirits. We welcome you to be with us as we experience the mysteries of a fully human life together. Please join me in our welcoming. The words are on the screen. Wherever you are, wherever you come from, wherever you find yourself on life's journey, whichever your pronouns, whether you've walked in or rolled in or dialed in, whomever you love, you are welcome here.
Thank you, Ruth. I invite you wholly and fully into this place of peace, this place of community, this place of wisdom, and this place of wonder. I would like to offer you a chance to take a moment to center yourself, to ground yourself in your presence in this place, with all those present here in the sanctuary and all those joining us on YouTube. Together we are the Emerson community. We invite you to allow yourselves to breathe, to feel yourself sink into the seat below you, to allow your heart and mind to be here along with your body in this room, connected in a real and valuable way. I invite you now to do one of the hardest things you might be asked to do. Just be, or as Brother James Dennis put it, to step out of time. We will exit this moment of meditation or prayer or peace or whatever you want to call it. We will exit this moment by singing our first hymn. The words will be on the screen when the music starts. Feel free to stand or sit or sing or not sing, but we hope you'll sing with us. And now we rest and step out of time. we now invite you into this ritual, ceremony, whatever you want to call it. This is practiced in Unitarian Universalist churches throughout this country. We ask you, those of you bearing a weight today, who want to give light to that weight, we invite you to come forward and give light to that weight. And those of you carrying a joy today, who would like to celebrate that joy, we invite you to come forward and light a candle here to celebrate that joy. And for those of you who may be going to an RE class after, if you want to come and light a candle, you're invited to do so. And then Miss Zena will be with you in the back of the room for your class. So we invite you now to come forward and share this ritual with us. My friends, that's a lot of candles today. So I know when I see you come what some of the candles are, and I hold you in my heart, and we hold you in your heart as a community. We hold the spirit of love that you light here today. We hold the spirit of love that you bring with you, and we hold the concerns that you carry in your heart. And let these candles breathe here these joys and these concerns into the room as we move forward. Amen. And now I invite Richard to bring us our UU History Minute.
Thank you, Reverend Ed. Good morning. Good morning. From Frank Schulman's book, which was published in 2004 and details significant events and people in UU history, I've selected 2 items for the week of September 15th to the 21st. On the 15th of September in 1847, President William Howard Taft was born in Cincinnati, Ohio. He served in a variety of government posts, from Assistant Prosecuting Attorney of Hamilton County, Ohio, to Superior Court Judge. He went to Washington as Solicitor General of the United States, and then became Civil Governor of the Philippines, mentoring that nation towards full independence with as little attention to racial differences as he could. He then became Secretary of War before being elected president, 1908 to 1912. When his term was over, Taft went to Yale University, where he taught law until 1921, when he was appointed Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. Taft also served as moderator of the American Unitarian Association and was a member of the First Unitarian Church in Cincinnati. He died on March 8, 1930. And on the 18th of September in 1887, the date was celebrated in the state of Meghalaya, India, as Unitarian Day, the date on which Hajom Kishore Singh held the first Khasi Hills Unitarian Church service in Jowai, India. 1 woman and 2 men joined Singh as the first members of the new church, which adopted a statement of faith in 1888. We believe, 1, in the unity of God, 2, in the fatherhood and motherhood of God, 3, in the brotherhood of man, 4, in love, union, worship, and faith, and 5, in immortality. The Unitarian movement spread, and more than 30 churches claiming 10,000 members in the Khasi Hills region. This holiday is celebrated as a time of renewal and regathering of the community. Beginning on this day, each family has a night when the whole congregation comes to worship in its house and share dinner. At that time, the family and house are blessed. Reverend Ed?
Did I not mention that we're going to start doing that? Every week, we're going to show up at one of y'all's house. All of us. So, funny story about Taft. My wife is from New Haven, and we were lucky enough to attend a wedding at Yale. And there's this giant room at Yale where they hold weddings and things like that. And there's portraits of all the people who have gone on to be president from Yale around the room. And they were all the same size, except for Taft's, which is like 4 times as big and hanging over the door. Now, Taft was a giant man, like bodily. He was a big guy. But the reason why his is bigger is because he's the only one that went on to, from president to Supreme Court judge, so chief of the Supreme Court. It's just interesting. If you get a chance. That wasn't at Yale, though. That was in New York City, right? That was at the Yale Club in New York City, across the street from Grand Central. Not that you're going there, but that's where it is. And now we transition back into our actual service. Sorry. We here at Emerson feel that it is important to acknowledge that our history is a shared and harmful one. Our congregation's buildings are situated on the home of the Karankawa and the Atakapa peoples, who were here for at least 2,000 years before European settlers arrived and very nearly brought about their end. May we recognize, uplift, and support Indigenous voices and communities in our work as a congregation. And each time we are gathered, we hear words from one of our 6 Unitarian sources. Today, we hear words from the Bible, specifically from the book of Matthew, which is often called the Gospel of Matthew. And it is one of the books of the Christian scriptures in the Christianity's Holy Bible. Both readings today will be using the Message paraphrasing translation. In advance, I'd like to define 2 terms for you here in this passage that will be well known to readers at the time, but may not be so well known to you right now. Those terms are Pharisees and Sadducees. They were both members of the ruling class of Jews in Israel at the time of Jesus, but they were different. They were both religious. With the religious and the ruling class, it was a lot of overlap, if not 100% overlap. They were both religious, but the Sadducees were more conservative and literal, and the Pharisees were more secular. But for our purposes, at least, they were both members of the ruling elite. So when those words sweep by you, I just wanted you to know what they meant when I said them. So here is the reading from the book of Matthew. When the Pharisees heard how Jesus had bested the Sadducees, they gathered their forces for an assault. One of their religious scholars spoke for them, posing a question to Jesus that they hoped would show him up. "Teacher," they said to him, "which commandment in God's law is most important?" Jesus said, "Love the Lord your God with all your passion and prayer and intelligence. This is the most important, the first on any list. But there is a second to set alongside it. Love others as well as you love yourself. These 2 commandments are pegs, and everything in God's law and the prophets hang from them." And that is the end of our first reading, and I would now invite Ruth Walensky to bring us into our offertory.
Emerson's purpose statement is, "Our beloved community of faith, reason, and affection welcomes all to grow in mind and spirit as we build a better world." We remind you of it each week by stating it right on the front of your order of service. We live out our purpose in many ways. We worship together, we learn together, we lobby together, and we spread our faith through our actions. We also give our time, talent, and treasure to our partners in Houston and across the nation and the planet, who we feel are living out our purpose in ways that we only wish we could. We support these partners each week at this time in our service. 75% of today's offering will go to our September Share the Plate recipient, the Women's Home. For almost 70 years, the Women's Home has been building communities that strengthen women and support families as they reclaim their stability. The Women's Home envisions a world in which every woman embraces her unique value and potential for a life filled with love, dignity, and purpose. The remaining 25% of today's offering will go to Interfaith Ministries Meals on Wheels, which provides thousands of meals every day to Houston's homebound seniors. You can go to our webpage for online giving, put cash or a check in our offering basket, or mail a check to the church. words. For our second reading today come from Matthew, verse 20, chapters 1 to 16. Is that how you say it? Like our first reading, we'll be reading from the Message paraphrase. God's kingdom is like an estate manager who went out early in the morning to hire workers for his vineyard. They agreed on a wage of $1 a day and went to work. Later, about 9 o'clock, the manager saw some other men hanging around the town square, unemployed. He told them to go work in his vineyard and he would pay them a fair wage, and they went. He did the same thing at noon and again at 3 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, he went back and found still others standing around. He said, "Why are you standing around all day doing nothing?" And they said, "Because no one hired us." So he told them to go work in his vineyard. When the day's work was over, the owner of the vineyard instructed his foreman, "Call the workers in and pay them their wages. Start with the last hired and go on to the first." Those hired at 5 o'clock came up and were each given $1. When those who were hired first saw that, they assumed that they would get far more. But they got the same, each of them $1. Taking the $1, they groused angrily to the manager, "These last workers put in only 1 easy hour, and you just made them equal to us, who slaved all day under a scorching sun." He replied to the one speaking for the rest, "Friend, I haven't been unfair. We agreed on the wage of $1, didn't we? So take it and go. I decided to give to the one who came last the same as you. Can't I do what I want with my own money? Are you going to get stingy because I am generous?" Here it is again, the great reversal. Many of the first ending up last, and the last first.
Okay. As part of my commitment to you, which I've made several times, I wrote a whole sermon, which I am not going to deliver, because it was too rehearsed and too practiced and too perfect. Instead, I'm going to join you today in an act of rebellion. I'm going to teach you about the Bible. Why is that an act of rebellion? The Bible, over the years, and especially in these United States, is used as a wedge to separate us, as a hammer to manipulate us, and it is used as a crutch to support us, where we give it to people and say, "You'll be fine, don't worry about this world, you'll be all right in the next world," which is very convenient if you're trying to control this world. This book has been used for ill effect for centuries, and it is increasingly used for ill effect right now by people who want to be in charge of you. And they are able to do so because so many of us don't know what it says. So we can't fight back. It is an act of rebellion to know what this thing says, to know how it's structured, to know what is in it, and kind of more importantly sometimes to know what's not in it. There's a lot that people say is in here that is not in here. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to just talk to you about what it is not, and I'm going to try to give you some information that may help you welcome it or at least not reject it. I know that everyone sitting here today is coming at this from different perspectives. Some of you came from a Christian tradition where this was part of your life. Some of you did not and don't know how to say Matthew chapter 20, verse 1 through 16, right? That was beautiful, wasn't it? That's where we are with this thing. We are scattered all throughout. Some of you were Jewish, so you know the beginning of it pretty well, not too aware of the end of it. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to give you some tools. You are certainly not going to become biblical experts in a day. I went to seminary and don't consider myself a biblical expert. But I'm going to give you a little bit of tools so you can at least say, I don't think that's what it says. And if you feel like you're being controlled by the Bible, it's pretty safe to assume that that's not what it says. Okay? I don't consider myself Christian. I consider myself Unitarian Universalist from a Christian background, okay? So first you have to understand about the Bible is what it is. And I'm going to go very basic on you. By the way, this Bible here was printed in 1762, and it is the 1611 translation. So it's pretty old. This is one of the ones with the these and the thous and the yous and all those other things in it that make it hard to understand. And the S's that look like F's, you know what I mean? That old real style, right? This is an oldie but goodie. This silly thing is driving me crazy today. Okay, so the first thing you have to understand is it's divided generally like this. This bit is the Jewish bit, and this bit is the let's call it post-Jewish bit, or the Christian bit, right? Now, this is a Christian Bible. The whole thing is a Christian Bible. They merge, the Christians adopt the beginning part, the Jewish part, and merge onto it their own additional story. But this is about the division between the Jewish part and the Christian part. The first 5 books of the Bible are referred to by the Jews as the books of Moses, or the Pentateuch, right? Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, Numbers and Deuteronomy, thank you. Okay, yeah, there you go. Okay, they are considered the law. The next batch of books is considered the history books. But you have to understand the perspective from which they're written. They were not written in the same way that we write history today. We write history today, Ron Chernow, David McCullough. They write history to find out what happened and document it. There was some of that going on, but for the most part, the historical books written 2,000, 2,500, 3,000 years ago were not written to illustrate what happened, but they were written to illustrate what a wholesome Jewish life was. How to be a leader, how to be all these different roles that you see. So after the historical books, you get the wisdom books. These are the books that are like the stories and the songs and these sorts of things, right? Ecclesiastes is in there. These are all the wisdom books. And then the last bit of this part of the Bible is the prophets. And the prophets are divided into 2 groups, the major prophets and the minor prophets. I don't know why they did that. I think the books are longer maybe, but you get the major prophets and the minor prophets. The major prophets tend to tie into the newer part of the Bible, which is a great thing I want to bring up, okay? We tend to call this the Old Testament and the New Testament, but when you do that, you're kind of dissing the Old Testament, right? You're saying, yeah, that used to be the way it was, but not anymore. And that's not appropriate, and it's not right. So that's why I will generally refer to this as the Hebrew Scriptures and these as the Christian Scriptures. Because, first of all, who am I to judge, right? I don't know that this overwrites this. But there are people, that's why they use the term Old Testament, because they want to make sure you understand that you only have to follow the stuff in here that's convenient for them. Okay? So, let's talk about the age of some of this stuff. The beautiful thing about this book is, and I'm sure there are many of you here that speak more than one language, right? And if you understand language at all, I speak languages that are really well connected. I speak French, Spanish, and English. These are really connected languages. They're all modern, they're all current. They all happened at the same time in roughly the same place, right? These languages aren't even from the same language group. Those 3, I mean, there's a little bit of Germanic in the English, and the French and the Spanish are all very related. And even between those 3 languages, it's hard to translate things sometimes. The word order is different. There are words that exist in one language that the entire word, the whole concept, doesn't exist in the other language. Take that and add 2,000 years worth of time to it and add completely different language groups together. And what you get is this book sitting here in front of you, written in English, is the modern day equivalent of something happening in Chinese, being written down in Arabic, translated into German, and then translated into English. The odds of it being right are infinitesimally small. You laugh, but it's very important, because people who say, I read the Bible fundamentally, I read it word for word, it's inconceivable that you could possibly understand what Jesus said by reading this. Because he said it in Aramaic, it was written down in Greek, translated to Latin, and then translated to English. Ain't no way I can't, just speaking French to English, there's words that we don't have, ideas, entire ideas that we don't have, okay? So let me give you the classic example of this in this book. And it happens in the Gospel of John. And it is one of the most American, publicized, well-known phrases in the Bible. It's John 3:16. You see it at every college football game. Jesus loves I can't even think of a team. I was going to say the Tide, the Roll Tide. What are they called? The Alabama Tide. Yeah, sorry. That was written down in my sermon. John 3:16 is a very interesting verse. There's a guy you need to know about for this story to make any sense. His name was St. Jerome. He was a patron. He was a father of the church. He was a very important person. And what he did was he translated the Bible into Latin. It's called the Vulgate. He translated the Bible into Latin, most of it from Greek. In John 3:16 goes like this, for those of you who don't know it. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. Okay. There's one tiny little bit in there, his only begotten Son. What happened was, Greek had a term for the son that was going to inherit the father's stuff. Latin did not have such a word. So St. Jerome gets to that word, and he needs to somehow express this Greek word, which does not exist in Latin. So he says, I'm going to go with my firstborn son. And people are like, well, that might not be the inheriting son if that son got sick or died or if he went into the priesthood or whatever. So you can't go with firstborn. So after a couple trials and tribulations, St. Jerome comes up with only son. Because now there can be no question that this is the son that's going to inherit all of the father's stuff. So, in trying to connect and translate one word from Greek, Koine Greek, not modern Greek, from Greek to Latin, St. Jerome created the only son. Then he added the word begotten in there, which modern scholarships have taken out. And what you end up with is, so God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. The original Greek says he gave his inheriting son. So St. Jerome accidentally created the exclusivity of Jesus. Not on purpose, he just did. And we, 2,000 years later, this is what we think, right? You've all heard that over and over and over again, right? Sure. So this is an important thing. And that little teeny tiny thing happens over and over and over and over when you go from Aramaic to Greek, when you go from Greek to Latin, and especially when you go from Latin to English. There are 3 jumps in language groups there. Aramaic is a Semitic language, Greek is Greek, Latin is Latin, and then you get English, which is a Germanic language. So just talking about language, reading this word for word is hard to justify. Throw in time, it's even harder to justify. There are biblical scholars, this is going to surprise you. There are lots of biblical scholars who think Jesus was funny. Right? Why? Because they start getting into the stories. And they see that he's taking another story from thousands of years before that would have been known to someone in his time and changing it a little and actually poking fun at the story. So these biblical scholars who are, I'm not a biblical scholar. These biblical scholars think Jesus was funny and oftentimes poking fun at power, which is interesting. We don't read it because we don't get the reference. We weren't there, right? So let me go back to an Old Testament story, the oldest Old Testament story, the oldest piece of literature. It doesn't date as the story being the oldest, but the oldest piece of literature that we have that comes from the Bible is the Song of Deborah, which is buried in the book of Judges. Has anybody ever heard of the Song of Deborah? Sure, you studied it, right? There's 2 stories, both told back to back in the book of Judges. One is told in prose, one is told in poetry. The one told in poetry, we're pretty sure was a hymn. They used to sing it. Okay? So, the book of Deborah, the oldest piece of literature, of Jewish literature, Hebrew literature in the Bible, and quite possibly the oldest piece of Jewish literature, period, known to man right now, is a story about a prophet named Deborah who tells her king, go to war with that dude over there, you'll be successful. You just need to bring this lady with you. Lady? Okay, fine. So off to war they go, and they beat the other king. The other king runs and hides, and this lady finds him at night and kills him in his tent in this super gruesome R-rated way. And this is an example of how even the liberal reading of the Bible, can mistake the meaning of the Bible. Because if you take that story from a 21st century perspective, it is a story about women being able to be powerful and being able to rule and being able to kill kings, right? But you're reading it from a 20th century perspective, and it was written in, they estimate, about 1600 BC. So it's going on 3,600 years old. So your liberal interpretation of this being a power of women statement is totally it's wrong. What it was it was poking fun at the Canaanite god. Because the Canaanite king, this guy who they went to defeat, this Canaanite king was in the Canaanite religion a god, because he was king, which made him God. So who killed their God? Our God? No. Our king? No. Some woman? Yes. That is making fun of their God. That's what that story is doing. So you have to read it from, if you read that story literally, you'd miss the whole point. So keep this in mind when you hear people reading bits of the Bible in pieces, especially when you hear just one verse at a time. One verse at a time? No. What are the circumstances around that verse? Who was Jesus talking to? Who was who talking to? What are the circumstances? Especially when you understand the Bible, you have to understand that they often bracketed things. They put one. Have you ever read it and then you read a story and then you read what appears to be the exact same story over again? What's in the middle is the important part. This is a form of literature that was used 2,000 years ago. It's not used anymore, so we miss it. The Deborah story, why was there a prose version and then a hymn version? Why did they keep both? Because they were both important to them. This is an important way of looking at things. So keep in mind that all of this stuff, the source, where the text is coming from, even the translator, was the translator trying to put their own spin on something by choosing this word rather than that word? Where did the translation come from? There are translations out there now that are going all the way back to the Aramaic, which is hard because the whole Bible doesn't exist in Aramaic anymore. So keep in mind all of these facts the next time someone tries to leverage the Bible against you. Keep in mind, so if someone says to you, so God loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, ask yourself, does it really say that? What is the significance of saying that? Who needs it to say that, more importantly, right? Who needs it to say that? And I'll leave you with I'm not going to do it here, but I will leave you, if you want a very quick bath in this, go online to YouTube and look up The West Wing, and there is a scene in The West Wing where the president, played by Martin Sheen, rips open this literal biblicalist, and it is hilarious. You have to see it. So if this is an area that interests you, please make sure you take a look at that. And I'll just say he starts with, the tattooing thing. You can't get a tattoo. And then he goes on and he lists all the 84 other things you can't do that everyone in the room is doing. So we layer our culture onto this, and we make this say what we want it to say. And that's misusing it. This is a book of wisdom. This is a book of joy. It is a book of pain. It is everything like these candles are right here. They're joy, pain, suffering, history, love, trying to figure it out. If you want to watch people from 2,000, 3,000 years ago try to figure it out, this is a wonderful source. It is not a lever, a hammer, or a wedge. And anybody who tries to use it like a lever, a hammer, or a wedge against you, refuse them that power. Just refuse them the power. Just say, that's not what it says. 95% of the people don't know how to argue with you. That is our act of rebellion for today, folks. Understanding what this is, what it brings, and what it does not bring. And if this thing aligns with your worldview in 2024 in the United States, that ain't the Bible. Because this thing does not understand a lot of the nuance of today. So take that, run with it. If you want to come up here afterwards, I'll leave this up here all week, and you can see a book that was published in 1762, which was, I don't know, a long time ago. I can't do the math. And now I invite you to rise and sing with us our second hymn. The words will be on the screen.
Lord.
And before we close out our service today, I would like to just remind you of my second act of rebellion for today, which is to remind you that there are 1,143 days till the next presidential election, and ask you if we are ready. Our time together is coming to a close. We have heard the words, we have heard and sung the music, and we have brought these words together into our community. The faith that we share is not a simple faith. It is so much easier to just be told what the answers are. Voltaire said, "Judge a man not by his knowledge, but by the questions that he asks." And that is way more work than just being able to repeat things. So I empower you today as you leave here. I empower you to feel the questions and feel the spark of the eternal life that brings us together. I would ask Marilyn to extinguish our chalice this morning. And as she does so, let me say, may we in the course of our week to come keep love at the center of our lives and of our thoughts and of our actions. May our shared values of independence, pluralism, justice, transformation, generosity, and equity guide our every thought and our every decision. May we have the strength to do all of this and have fun doing it. And may our lives, may our lived lives be our best worship. Amen. Amen.
May the Lord